Great. All right, everybody, welcome to the Abington Conservation Commission meeting. Today is February 11th, 2025. The time is 6:31 PM. So before we begin, I just wanted to let everyone know that Justin Van Nest has decided to leave the commission. I have to say that in the short time that he's been here, he's done quite a lot. He came up with our great pamphlet.
He did a great job.
He did a really nice job, and we're able to put that in the building department right now, and it's being worked on to be even fancier, and he's really coming along and really did a lot of good site walks, and so had a really good perspective, so he will definitely be
Did he
missed.
submit a resignation to the selectmen?
He sent it to me. I told Scott, and Scott asked him for a,
Written one, yeah.
I'd asked Scott to forward it to the selectmen, so
He will be missed.
he will definitely be missed. Okay. Next up, we have SE 0840576, Notice of Intent, filed by MP Design Consultants for residential subdivision with wetland crossing and 3 single-family lots located at 4454 Linwood Street. So, Jean, I made copies from everyone for the 3 peer reviewers who provided us with proposals.
Yes, he did.
So I think we have enough information to select one.
I did just get an update from John. And he's provided a ballpark figure. I forwarded that on to you, Lynn. It came in at the last minute.
Okay. So it looks to me like, I included John Rockwell's resume, which is pretty extensive here. He was the only one to give us a resume. But if you guys, there's a lot there to look at. All of them, well, 2 of them seem to be kind of doing the standard, we'll take a look at everything, we'll go out in the field, we'll come up with a report, we'll come to a meeting. If you guys have follow-up questions, might go out on the site again, amendment to the report, final meeting. One of them didn't include those last couple steps, but indicated that if that's needed, they will add on to their cost.
So what is the cost? I'm seeing John's cost at 110 an hour.
Right, and I think he said in his email
So,
that, I forwarded that to you, Lynn.
he said,
Oh, this one is $2,800.
she's the one that's not going to do as much work. John said 25 as a deposit. But Jean asked him, well, can you give us an estimate of hours? And he said the initial look would probably be less than 2,000. And she had said, do you think that it would get up to 6,000? And he said, I don't think it would go up to 6,000. And BSC, who is kind of like the gold standard, was 7,000.
Yeah.
But some of that assumes that we would have.
Oh, I'm sorry, I see it
Second.
now.
Yep.
Yeah, they break it down. They break it down by, we estimate this many hours for this many
Right.
hours for that.
So it could
The
be
others are a
high.
lot more,
Yep.
here's a fee, and there's no, except for John, John says this is how much I'll do per hour. It's a little bit more fuzzy as to how much it would be from him. And really from the other one, because she's basically said, this is my rate, but it doesn't have every. I anticipate, based on what we've done in the past, that we would ask follow-up questions.
The 2 of the peer reviews had a little more detail too, as far as the scope of work versus Deborah Anderson. So. Her figure doesn't include some of the scope of work that John and BSC included.
Yeah.
So her $2,800 figure is,
Not, she's not, I mean, we could ask her to do the same amount of work as the other two are indicating.
yeah,
That would increase the cost.
because I think the other two reviewed current updates from DEP as well as our town bylaws, and I don't know if Deborah did. I don't know if she referenced them.
So are we looking for a motion for one of them?
Well, I think we're going to ask the commissioners if you have any questions or thoughts, or,
I think John Rockwell is given the best price, and
He's got an
His
amazing
resume.
resume.
his resume is
so
pretty intense.
he would be the one I would go for.
He's also, MACC has a forum where you can ask questions, and he's a moderator. And when we were having difficulty finding some peer reviewers, I said to Gene, hey, what about this guy? He seems like he knows his
He knows a
stuff."
lot. I mean, just looking at his background and his resume. What did you call this? What is a professional person?
CV is what
It's a
scientists call it.
Okay.
Yeah, curriculum vitae. But BSc is also the gold standard, and I don't know.
Well, and we have used them a
We've
couple of
used them.
times in
They've
the
been
past.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Being in the field with BSC, I think at the time I'd have never worked with Amanda, but we worked with Matthew Byrne from BSC. And in the field, he was just so intense with working with the applicant at the time, their wetland scientists, that they were bringing up facts that nobody even thought of. So, I mean, they are a gold standard, so. John his resume is very impressive.
Yeah.
He
He's
wrote
doing a lot,
wetland
too.
protective bylaws for cities and towns. That's amazing.
Yeah, he was wasn't he a conservation agent?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, yep.
His board of directors, MACC, 1994.
So you're making that as a motion?
I will. If there's no other questions, I'd make a motion to hire John Rockwell
Second.
as the peer reviewer for 840576.
Okay.
Rich seconded?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Okay, great. Thank you.
It'd be
I
great
will-
to hang on to all of these.
I
Yeah.
do have them, I have a hot list that I don't like to share with anybody, because that's how we lost a couple of our peer reviewers.
Yeah.
So I don't let anybody know who they are.
All right, so we'll go ahead and contact him tomorrow.
Do you want to reach out to him, or do you want me to, seeing how you're chair?
I can reach out to him.
All right, very
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Okay. All right, next up on the agenda, SEO 840578, notice of intent filed by Chris O'Neill to construct a detached accessory structure located at 70 Diane Circle. Is
That's
anybody?
just, the only reason that's on tonight is just for the order of conditions.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're just doing the order of conditions, although they did send a plan for landscaping. They put in high bush blueberry, low bush blueberry, and there was another one. And I think I'm going to ask them to change the low bush blueberry to something else, because my concern is deer grazing. And they also had it a little smaller than what we normally indicate. But I think that was my only issue there. I don't have the order condition thing that we normally have. I don't
You
know
have
if
a
anybody
blank
else
order
has it with them.
I don't know, I can check.
Yeah, that's the one. Nick is sick today, and
I was going
The
to just say,
cart.
was Nick joining us tonight?
No.
yeah, no, he said they had the cart downstairs, but there's nobody there, so
Well,
I can't get in. I wrote up what I thought would
Okay,
work.
why don't we go with what you thought? 'Cause
Here,
I
wait a
was
minute. Yo, look.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead. Because I already wrote out what I think.
All right, why don't you go through what you did, because I was
Why
gonna
don't you
do
share that one with others?
You got one.
And then, okay,
I
so
got-
I have.
I think I have one there.
A1, the
Second
erosion and
last one, I thought.
sedimentation controls.
I might, that one seems very thick. Maybe I have other stuff attached to it.
Beautiful. Okay, so everyone has something they can see?
Well,
Okay, I have A1. A2. If I go too fast, tell me.
okay.
A3. A4. A6. And then for B.
Why not 5?
How can we
Dewatering.
apply A4 if we were going
Dewatering.
with riprap?
They're not going to do any dewatering, are they?
They're not doing
No,
No, no, we
riprap.
were going with
Well,
the
they
C,
did a
not the rip,
foundation,
that's
they
right.
might.
You
That's
think
right.
so?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could
All right.
be, yeah.
Okay, we'll add
When-
A5.
Once they dig the foundation, they could have water.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's
that-
putting the deep sump well in potentially for.
Yeah, so
the-
I would definitely do 5.
Okay, so all of A.
All of A.
All of A, perfect, okay.
Thank you.
B, I just had B6.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
All right, C, I have C1. And I think that was it for C. D, nothing. E, nothing. That, F, nothing. G2. Oh, wait, G1. excuse me.
G1.
I have G1.
G2,
G2, and then,
G3,
yep,
4,
yep.
5,
I said 100 feet.
yep, that's fine. 6,
And 7, yep.
Yeah,
And then for H, I had, I think I didn't put 1 in. I put H2,
yeah, I think that's fine on that. Yeah.
H4,
Yep,
H5,
H6,
yep. And I had location of drainage structures, limits of clearing, fill, or alteration, location of structures and pavement within 100 feet, site grade contours, and then the proof the order has been recorded.
yep,
Okay.
H7,
H7, and then C.
yeah,
I wanted to change the wording for this one, though, because on the plan, it says no herbicides or pesticides whatsoever. And in this one, it says minimal. So I thought we could kind of split the difference by just saying no fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides utilized by the property owner unless approved by the Conservation Commission. So, they're trying to get those 15 shrubs to grow and they need to put compost in.
right,
We can't say sorry.
yeah.
But
And what about that Japanese?
Yeah, the Japanese.
not
weed.
weed, exactly. Well, there's a whole herbicide thing that they've come in, and I added some special orders, which you guys don't have in front of you, but we'll discuss.
Can
when
you
we
go back
get
to
that.
H6 and which letters did you approve on that one?
The letters changed as I was writing this out.
Okay.
So it may not be the same letters,
All right.
but it was the location of drainage structures and their
All right, B,
composition.
yeah, B,
Limits of clearing,
C.
fill,
okay,
location of structures
D.
and pavement,
yep,
site grade contours,
yep,
and then the proof.
okay.
G,
All
yeah,
right,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure it was called out, that's all.
Sure. Okay, so 7, 8, H8,
yep,
H9,
yeah,
I1, I2A,
B,
B, C.
C,
And then special conditions, I didn't have any of those. but what-
Signage,
Okay. Do you want, I probably have the same ones as you, but I've got You want to tell me which ones you have, and I'll just.
No, I think, what, on special conditions? The only thing I was going to say it's not on here is signage, which they had on their plan, but
Yeah,
I just want
yeah.
to make sure it's in the order of
Yeah,
conditions.
I would just say a special order signage as per plan.
Yeah, so I have that. Permanent boundary marker shall be installed to mark the X-foot no disturbance zone. I don't know where they were planning on putting them? 35 feet?
I
or-
don't have the plan in front of me, I left it at home.
Yeah.
But I know they had one in the front, one towards the back.
Again, we can just reference the plan as per the
Yeah,
plan
I just
submitted.
have the
In
type of
the-
marker and the
Wait a minute.
placement shall be approved by
I
the
think
commission.
AJ has
On
a
the
question.
special conditions here, they were going with the jute mat and seed over hydro seed, I believe, was what they discussed last time. So I don't know if that's different than any of the special conditions, because these ones all specify hydro seeding.
Yeah, those are not, I didn't put those in for special conditions.
I just want to make sure that it's not going to be a technicality that gets caught up with.
Well, everything has to be submitted as per the plan submitted. So we have that on the plan.
Okay.
So I think that's sufficient. But when they go for the order of conditions, it has to match
Okay,
what they submitted.
okay.
And on the special conditions, I mean, we didn't call out J1, 2, or 3. It's just that
Okay,
it would be, like
yep.
Alex just said, the only thing I don't see on the special conditions is the signage, which I just feel it needs to be called out.
Yeah, sure. I have the signage.
Thank
I
you.
did that. It's actually going to be J14.
J14, all right. Are you updating this?
You always like to have the street being kept clean of
Yep.
debris, so that's included. What else?
Snow removal area? We don't have
No.
to worry about that.
No.
No.
I wrote in, this is another one, Conservation Commission should be notified a week in advance of the onset.
Okay.
A pre-construction meeting has to be held
Right.
before work. Qualified ecologist oversees the planting. If the plants aren't available that are on the plan, they can get some natives that are suitable. Substitutes can be considered, but it needs to be native species suitable to the growing conditions. And if they have to have any deviations, they can just contact us.
And
Review.
is this going to be monitored over a period of time?
Yeah, I'm going to get to that.
Okay, sorry.
In a minute. Prior to any invasive species, they have to have a qualified ecologist identify and flag all invasive species. They'll remove all the species and noxious weeds to the maximum extent practicable. Any application to herbicide has to be done by a licensed herbicide applicator. They have to give us information about the type of herbicide and if they dilute it, and any sort of toxicological data like material safety data sheet should be provided to us ahead of time for approval. All the vegetation that's invasive will be contained and removed off-site. Following application, so they also have a section where they're doing native seed mix.
Okay.
Just says, they'll apply a thin uniform layer of weed-free mulch to help out. When the plantings are done, they'll contact us. We want to make sure that when they do the plantings, it's either in the spring between April 15th to June 15th of the year that work begins. I didn't put in an actual, you have to have it done by April 1st, 2025, because I
Yep.
don't know when it's going to start.
Right.
I'm going to give them some time for that. And then if there are ones that are optimally planted in the fall, then no later than October 15th. We want to make sure by the end of 2 years that something is growing pretty well. And typically, if we were doing replication or restoration, we'd have like monitoring reports. I don't think we need any of that.
No.
But I think what we should have is go for that benchmark of at 75% needs to be successful and healthy. I think that's reasonable by the end of 2 growing seasons. So they can just have someone go out there and give us a report. But
We've
if,
done that. We just did that on a few.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I'm just saying that he doesn't have to hire
No.
a wetland scientist to
No.
come out twice a year.
Right.
just, I'm assuming, from what I was reading, they were going to tell him how to do irrigation,
Okay.
all that stuff, so. And then if it's in our opinion that it's deficient or if it's failed, then we will give them a certain amount of time to fix that and replace that. And then the last one is just that the applicant's required to instruct all agents to explain the markers to buyers, lessees, landscapers, and all persons taking over the property.
Okay.
That's all I had. Is there anything else that we want to add?
Oh, I think you've covered everything.
Motion to approve?
Okay.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great, unanimous. All right. And I will contact them about the species change.
Give you back your copy for
Okay.
future use.
Thank you. I'm glad I had some. You guys can hang on to it. Yeah. As a matter of fact, you can give this one to AJ, so he'll always have one.
All right, great. And we'll have to have it signed. I'll ask Nick to go around and get
Yep.
signatures. Okay. SEO 840569, request for certificate of compliance filed by Robert English LLC located at 29 Robert English Lane. Is anybody here for that?
Mr. Kennedy?
Mr. Kennedy, would you like to come up?
Good evening.
Good
Jason
evening.
Kennedy with Robert English LLC. We have completed our project at 29 Robert English, and we have the yard loomed. We put in the 4x4 markers with the required signage at the 35-foot no-touch zone. We had Alex out for a site walk along with Nick, and they felt that we were in compliance. The erosion control is still in place. The only thing we haven't done is the seeding of the lawn because of the time of the year, which we plan to do in the spring. So I was looking for a certificate of compliance. Alex brought up that you guys still have jurisdiction over the overall roadway order of conditions, so.
And the other house you're building now.
And at 10 McHugh Circle as
Right.
well, so, which we plan to finish late spring, so we'll have you guys out during that time, and we could show you the lawn at 29 Robert English too.
So I
So,
told them we would.
Yeah, I'd like to see the new markers, too. Do you remember like you did on the other one, John, Robert, the one before it?
the 4x4 markers?
Oh, you have I'm sorry, you have the 4x4s, I'm sorry.
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, we have the
Thank you.
4x4
Thank you.
markers with the, well, I forget what size that sign is.
Yeah,
2
okay.
feet by 2 feet. I'm
No.
just kidding, I know it's big. I'm just kidding. It's
Yeah.
a little bigger on the
But I
4x4, but
Did
Alex
tell him
saw that.
that
Yep.
it looked great, and, but if he doesn't seed that when he's ready for the one on McHugh Circle, then you won't get McHugh Circle.
That's what you
Right.
mentioned, that's reasonable.
Yeah.
And again, in the 35-foot to the erosion control will be the buffer seed mix, and then outside of that will be the normal
Right.
hydro seeding lawn mix that we apply to the yards.
For the other, yes, okay,
Yes.
good. Thank you.
So I don't know if you have any questions, but Alex did, oh, and Nick was out too with
Yeah,
Alex.
Nick's there too, yeah.
And I've seen the other two, and you did a nice job on that.
Oh, well, thank you.
You did a nice
Thank you.
job.
So I'd make a motion to approve.
Second, whoop,
Subject to the seeding being done by, give me a date.
I would say probably May or June based off the way the winter is. So by the time.
By June 1st.
Sure, yeah,
You can seed it by June 1st?
of course.
Okay.
Yes.
Motion to approve, and he must seed that by June 1st.
Okay, we got a second for that.
he did.
Extending the second onto this, okay.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, unanimous, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So when are you closing on that?
The 27th,
Okay, so Nick is out sick tonight,
okay?
so we'll have him get the signatures and get it to you.
Okay,
All right.
thank you. I'll follow up with him in the morning.
Yeah.
He'll just tell me his timeline, so,
Okay.
okay. Thank you, have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, next up, discussion and possible vote on Hanson Tree located at 832 Randolph Street.
Hey, everybody. Again, for public record, David Cowell, Hancock Associates, on behalf of Hanson Tree. Did you guys receive site plans in the handout? So you did? Okay,
Yep.
yep, so we can refer to those. So, as of our last hearing, I think we were approaching finding reconciliation to a restoration plan to work towards reconciliation of the enforcement order. The commission had asked me to add a few details to the plan, which I think we made those modifications. And then the other addition that we'll note on here is that I actually worked with Hanson Tree in the last go-around to identify locations, within their confines of where they plan to continue to stockpile materials, where they would park their cars, where they would manage things in terms of confinement for the future. So, let's see.
Oh, sure.
I got another one if you want another.
No, it's-
Yeah, you got, yeah.
When we get 10 across
It's
the
gonna
board,
be
it's not.
around each other.
Yeah, plus on the mic.
So, okay, the first thing was the berm. The earthen berm that we proposed, there was some deliberation about what was appropriate to stop material from going by. The two things that we modified is that we've increased the height of the berm. I think originally it was 1 foot height and 4 foot width. We did look at 3 feet, which I think was the request. I talked to our civil engineers. He had recommended 2 feet. I'm asking the commission if you guys would accept that. At 2 feet, as it goes up, it goes outward too. So the footprint of restored area actually increases now by, and we've revised our surface area numbers. So the width of that berm, I think last time I was here was 6 feet, and now it's increased to 8 foot width. So it's another couple of feet, which, given the length of that thing, gives another few hundred square feet of additional surface area. But at 2 feet, like I said, it'll be 8 foot wide. We still have the trees that are planted at 12-foot intervals, which are going to be box elders. And then the second detail that you guys asked us to add were boulders. So as detailed on the plan now, we actually have boulders on the forward face of that berm as a physical deterrent that trucks or anything errantly backing up into it will hit those boulders and not go over the berm. So I think that was the primary revision I think we had leaving the last hearing. However, what we have done is the applicant I asked them to provide detail of, we talked about operations and maintenance moving forward. How are they going to maintain future operations to prevent this from occurring in the past? The berm notwithstanding, what they're proposing to do is, previously, they put log storage area, but logs are primarily what they had. There was like timber and stuff that was out there. Most of the stockpiles were along the southern side of this, abutting the wetland.
Yeah.
And what they'd like to do now is actually designate that for the vehicle parking or leaving their vehicles, and where they used to leave their vehicles closer to the roadway is designated this as the stockpile area. This gives you a lot more distance between what they're storing and where they were down here, where we were seeing these encroachments where you're getting stockpile runoff and going over that. So I think that is a better option. They did designate some concrete bins here, which again can be used for storage, but the concrete bins, I think we had talked before where it was, could you put in like a stone retaining wall? And these bins are designed to do that. These are designated areas with confinement around them that they can stockpile in with additional, confinement preventing material runoff. There's also a few, there's one concrete block bin out here, there's 2 concrete bins down here, and then there's, they want to put 2 steel, like Conex containers here for storage of material in confinement. They did designate a snow storage area. Again, I wanted to ensure that even before the berm was here, that they weren't plowing their snow directly into wetlands, which, it seems right for doing that, they just plow it. But with the berm there, now they have a designated snow storage area where they would put their store. And that's really it in summary. And again, returning to tonight, hoping to find a conclusion to this where we can have the plan approved for execution starting this spring. We're a month away from March. Ideally, once we get snow melt, end of March, early April, that they could get in there and start removing material. In terms of schedule, given the fact that they need to pull material out there and grade it, starting in, as soon as seasonally appropriate, once we get, late March, Plan A would be to have them actually plant this by the end of the, in your second hearing, I noticed that you had a lot of conditions pertaining to ecological restoration, and I commend you guys on that. I'm actually teaching a workshop at MACC, if any of you guys are doing this. In most commissions, my workshop is on restoration and planning, permitting, and monitoring. And just like you have time of year restrictions, that all of these are really important, and I don't see enough of those in orders of condition. So, but speaking of that, as seasonally appropriate, we want to get the plants in the ground before, like, early June, June 15th at the latest. We don't want to plant during the dog days of summer where it would require irrigation to keep them alive. Plan A would be to have it planted, depending on how long it takes them to grade that out and make sure there's suitable topsoil. If it runs longer than that, at a very minimum, I want them to have the native seed mix applied to provide stabilizing ground cover. But if they can't plant the woody species in my restoration plan prior to like June 15th, it might be a dormant fall season in late August or early September as the second.
Sure.
You guys are aware,
Right.
midwinter and peak summer are the two worst times
Yeah.
to do it. So that's just tentative schedule, just being realistic. But, yeah, ideally, I want them in there by the end of March when they can start pulling back material and out of there.
And what would be stored in these bins?
That would be, they don't do like mulch and some of the.
That's where the mulch would
Yeah,
go?
and some of the stuff that would, that was the issue, I think. It
Yeah.
wasn't the timber that they had out there, that's not washing away in rain events. Most of the fill that I did notice in the wetland when I was putting my auger through was wood chips, which not only can slough down the back of those piles, but they also are buoyant, underwater. They're wood. So every time there's any sheet flow back there, it washes wood chips into those wetlands. So the bins would be designed for any erodible materials. I don't know that they do topsoil. I don't think that they do. I'm not aware. But anything erodible, basically, I just want to qualify that it would be topsoil, gravel, anything of small diameter, particulate matter that
Are they
can
looking-
wash away.
Are they looking to store
Store what?
Are they looking to store magnesium? Is that the point of the tented bin?
No, under the magnesium is salt. Salt, road salt.
Right.
Yep,
So-
magnesium, chloride, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's and that is an existing condition, they're currently storing there, and that would continue to be maintained, that it's confined, it has overhead coverage on it, so the salt isn't diluting into the water. So,
As
Yep.
long as that's being adhered to, because I know there's a lot of issues elsewhere with usage, abutting wetlands, never mind storage.
oh, right, yep. Yeah, no, and it's not just erodible material that washes off with surface runoff, it changes the salinity of the water getting into the groundwater, which eventually leachates out into the thing. So, yeah, we want to keep water off of
Right.
salt storage. So that's exactly right. That's an existing condition, though. They've had
Okay.
this covered awning where they've been managing their salt, and they asked to
Okay.
continue to do so.
And so we're not going to have big open piles of mulch like in these other areas? It's just going to try to be confined?
Within the confines
these,
of,
okay.
yep.
Of this big one over here in the corner.
I'm sorry.
The big one and the other two?
And then there's two more over.
Oh, and there's two little ones here, yeah. So this is going to be the mulch.
Yeah, what
Over here.
I'm guessing that they're looking at,
In those two.
just
Okay.
from how they typically operate up by the tent, I'm guessing is their usable products, mulch, landscape products, the tents and everything, and then the big bin down the lower corner there where they're specking the loading ramp is where I'm guessing they're gonna dump their wood chips, because they're specking a loading ramp, I'm guessing that's for loading
Yep.
out the,
Yep.
the live floor semis coming in
Right.
to go to the pulp mill.
Yeah, because
Yep.
before they were pretty much right here where they proposed the parking. It was sitting there and they were driving around and the ramp was on the other side. I like the way this is looking. My only concern is with one of the steel container boxes is sitting smack in the 35 no disturb.
We had, I thought we had talked about this in prior hearings, is the extent of what's being utilized in the 35-foot no disturb zone versus what we're trying to restore. So
I
again.
mean, I understand the log pile would be partially in there. I understand that the wood chip pile would partially be in there. It's just that where they're proposing to moving the 2 steel boxes that they have, and now they're over here, one's just still in the 35. I don't remember that. I mean, so just refresh my memory for me, because,
Well, I think I brought this up at the last
did you
meeting.
refresh my memory, please?
I don't think the 35-foot rule applies to them, because this is existing non-conforming. The 35-foot rule went in long after they purchased this land. So I don't think we can enforce someone
Okay.
we can't stop them from using their property that they've done for 20 years because we changed the law.
Right, but I was just saying, because they had them sitting here,
Right.
and they were gonna put them here, why they couldn't be right next to each other like they were here?
Yeah.
See how they're leaving the big
Yeah.
space there? That was my concern.
No, I
Because
understand,
if
yeah.
moving it over next door to each other would not have been as much of a question for me as what they.
Why is there space between them? Is there a reason?
I mean, they were
for that?
side by side over here, and
Well,
now,
that's a good point. I don't know why the gap. That's, there's,
I mean, 'cause
I can
originally-
ask them if there's any reason. And of course, these are, these are,
Built the roof over it.
Yeah, that's probably exactly it. They sell a roof kit that you can put
So-
between
Oh, yeah,
containers.
probably.
So you could put machines
So
or
they're
whatever
probably
else
putting-
on the weather and utilize that.
all right, I mean, because, to me, I saw them over here, and then they say they're moving them, and I just couldn't understand why they were,
not,
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
the logical answer to why they are.
I mean,
are
it's not
abutting
that
each
big
other
of a deal,
and there's
it's just
gap
a
in-
question that I
Yeah.
had,
Oh, yeah, nobody's.
and I
No,
understand.
but I
that.
understand it if you're gonna,
Right.
put a roof over it and use the space for something else.
Right, it's just that when they were respecting it and calling it out, I'm like,
Right,
okay, this
yeah.
is okay, and then I come
Yeah.
around here and I'm like,
Yeah.
there they were, and I'm like, oh, why is
Right,
this?
yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard to, and looking at the black and white CAD design drawings doesn't put you in the field where I know we did a sidewalk a long time ago,
Yep.
but these are existing, heavily altered, it's in the footprint that they're currently
And
utilizing.
I understand that, it's
So,
just a
right,
question
yeah.
that I had.
Yeah, no worries.
I look at little things, it's like.
Hey, that's attention to detail is
So all
important
the
in your
cars
role.
are gonna be parked down here in front of the berm,
Yep,
so there'll be no way that the trucks coming in and moving around are gonna have any effect on that, which is, what type of surface is gonna be underneath where the cars are gonna be parked, or is, I mean,
it's as is now, it's gravel and
is,
dirt,
okay.
yeah.
So I'm just curious, in terms of the trees, is there a reason why you just went with just one species, or is it?
Yeah, I went with box elder specifically because of their resilience for these sorts of, box elder is a native species in terms of functionality, right? But prior to being mandated to put the boulders in, the trees were with intent to be the physical barricade to trucks would hit a tree, right, before they go over the berm. So I chose box elder because they're a resilient native species. They're pretty fast growing too. So even if you select like 2 calipers or something to put in there, I expect rapid growth with those. And again, it wasn't a matter of looking at restoration. It was the function of preventing protection of the berm with root structure and preventing guys as more so than it was ecological restoration of looking to implement species diversity of choosing 3 or 4 different trees and because I understand the benefit of that. I think that's in more in the native planting plan that we have for the restoration zone behind it. But that was the reason behind box elder.
Yeah, I
was-
read up on box elder, and at maturity, they can reach a height of 75 feet.
They rarely get that high. I can't tell you the last time I've seen it 75-foot.
It says at maturity, so I don't know how long it takes to mature for.
Oh,
But it did say it was rapid growth, it does say it'll grow in any kind of soil condition, so.
Rapid in terms of tree growth is relative, okay?
Well,
So I don't
yeah.
want you to think that.
Well, you can look at a willow, and a willow will grow so
Yeah.
many feet, and a crabapple will grow so many feet. I mean, I understand that, but I'm just saying, I did look up box elders just to get an idea.
I'm glad you did, that's the homework. So the box elders, they can reach 75 feet at maturity, I'm sure that's like their maximum range. I
Yep.
can tell you from, I've never seen a 75-foot box elder in
I never
Massachusetts,
have
which is
either.
true, right? But they're, again, it's the resiliency, they're a commonplace native species that are used in urban or disturbed areas that take pretty well. When I say fast-growing, by comparison, and we're talking about a generational time frame. It's not that 10 years from now,
Right.
you're going to have a 75-foot, you're looking at 60 or 80 years, like, it takes some time.
Are they
By comparison to oaks, like Quercus species are really slow-growing, so, anytime, I see people put them in their restoration plan, but it's like, if you put it in a shrub layer oak, 10 years from now, you might get 2 feet of growth.
Right.
It'll still be in the shrub layer. It'll take 3
So-
generations before you.
These
you have
box
a-
elders are actually, if I read
Yep.
it correctly, they're a species of maple?
They're maple. And the funny thing about box elder is
their
that they have a compound leaf.
Yes.
As opposed to,
Right.
maple leaves
Yep.
are singular.
They look similar to
Yep,
poison
simple
ivy.
leaves. Yeah, those are
Yeah.
compound leaves, like you'll see in sumac, or you'll see it in hickory, and
Yep.
you'll see it in ash. So it's very unique that it's an acer species, it's a maple,
I saw that.
but it doesn't have the conventional maple leaf, so,
Interesting.
yeah.
And so is that idea, because I noticed in the actual wetland area that you don't have any trees that are gonna be in there, it's all bushes?
Yep, and that's the native community of the existing wetland is scrub, shrub, or emergent, right? It's not forested wetland. So I'm trying to replicate the same native community that exists in the wetland as it is.
Okay.
So if you look a little bit beyond the extent of our alteration in the wetland itself, it's everything from, the common suspects, the silky dogwoods, your highbush blueberries, your winter berries, species of that nature. So that was by design to maintain the species, the community of wetland class that I'm hoping to restore.
Okay,
Yep.
good. Any other questions?
I think I asked all mine.
Anybody from the audience? Bringing it back to the board?
I think he's done a great job on this.
Thanks, I'm trying to be responsive to comments from the commission and
Yep.
find
You have been,
commonality.
this is, I'm happy.
Yeah. So we need a motion to approve this plan?
Yeah.
And in my motion, what dates do you want? I mean, we're going to need
Yep.
a rough starting date and a rough completion
Yeah,
date.
milestones, right. So that was the other part of the discussion. I'm glad you brought that up. What we're asking tonight is a vote to approve the plan for execution, and that would ratify the enforcement order, that the enforcement order, you would ratify that to say, by vote of commission, we've accepted this plan for execution. But there's still maintenance, there's still monitoring, and you guys don't, your hand is not out of this.
Right.
So I'd be happy to set, like I said, I'd like them to get started as
We
soon
want
as seasonally
realistic.
appropriate. Right.
Time. You know, we don't want
So-
you coming back unless
Yep.
you really have to. you know.
I mean, you have to work from the wetland
Yeah.
this way, so.
Exactly, you have to work your way from, work your
Right.
way back. and-
Where it was destroyed and bring it back, so,
Yep.
I mean,
But in terms of time sensitivity, I think, like I said, I'd like them to initiate work as soon as seasonally appropriate to start removing material. We'll check the topsoil, make sure there's at least a depth of 6 inches of clean organic topsoil for substrate. Forgive me.
that's all right.
Got me. For dates, I would suggest imposing that it is seeded with the native seed mix no later than end of May, right? And then, like I said, Plan A for these guys will be for them to have their native
May 1st?
May,
May.
May 15th, throw mid-May,
So-
yeah. Before June, later in June, it
Let's
does
say
get
the
dog
end of
days.
May.
Yeah, that's
Say
fair.
the end of May.
No later than May 31st.
Yeah.
It'll be seeded. Again, Plan A is for us to actually have the plants in at that time. Again, being realistic, though, if they're not able, there's a Plan A and a Plan B. Plan A would be to have them in no later than May 1st, but if it does drag, as long as it's seeded, I want to have vegetative stabilizing ground cover
Right.
on the soil so that they're stabilized over summer, and that there's root structure stabilizing the soils. And then if they can't get the nursery stock plantings in there, And they should have no problem getting nursery stock plantings. They're a landscape company. I mean, I think they procure their own.
So they're going to be
They
doing,
take box elder off their lot. I'd like to have that in the ground, but if they can't, then I would say don't do it during the peak dog days of summer and August
By October
15th.
15th?
Yep,
Okay.
anytime. The same seasonal time of year restrictions I think I saw in your second hearing
Yeah.
that I commended you on. Those are good windows. So
Thank you.
that would be
Okay.
the goal.
So my motion is to approve the plan
I think he was
Oh.
still.
Oh, no, go ahead. No, yep.
as submitted, with the seeding to be done no later than May 31st and the trees no later than October 15th,
And bushes.
Yep,
and bushes, yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I was also going to suggest, if you guys wanted to, is have an additional kickoff meeting with the Conservation Commission. That's something else you can impose. Is
Yeah,
like-
we would,
Is when you guys are ready to begin pulling soil back, is actually, you can impose.
That was going to be my
Yeah.
next point.
Oh, good,
We
yeah.
want
Conservation
to,
Commission will be notified.
Prior to construction, we want to have a meeting out there,
Yep,
all right?
yeah, great idea. Glad you thought of it.
Can you contact us a week ahead of time so we
Yep.
can get
Yeah.
time?
Yep.
Okay.
Right. And I think it's already in I tend to put these things right in here.
Yeah, I saw
General
you had a
restoration
lot.
notes.
You had a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
yeah, I saw that.
So right at the top, general restoration notes, the Abington Conservation Commission shall be notified no less than 1 week in advance of the initiation of any work
Good.
within the wetlands.
Okay.
So,
Perfect.
So the motion will be to approve the plan as submitted with seeding no later than May 31st and the trees no later than 10/15, and the plan already says you're going to notify us.
But I would like to just add one thing. Can we have some signage in there as well? Just, I know they're going to have rocks there.
that's fine. Do you guys, it sounded like from your prior hearing, do you have
It's right in our
it's on the
regulations.
website,
You can
yeah.
see it
Okay.
right on our website.
you know if they're, are they phenol markers or are they
They're like
signage,
4
like
by
placards?
4x4 posts.
Posts
4
with
feet
a
out of the
8.5 by
ground
11
with a
sign.
sign on it.
Okay.
Like a street sign.
Okay. Is there any, I imagine I can put it along the berm, like trees, signage?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is there any specific
What else
intervals
say,
or something fair?
I mean,
4 of them
Four-
along there, maybe?
I would say 2, 4, maybe 6, only because this is such a
Okay.
big wraparound
Yeah.
area, and over here is
Yeah, so
Weymouth.
just spread it
Yeah.
out 6 signs,
That's fair.
within the area
Okay.
equally.
Okay, yep. What I would ask is, what I can do is I can amend the plan to carry that notation and just send it back to the Conservation Commission.
That would be wonderful.
If you guys approve that, maybe I don't need to come back next time to vote to have that approved.
Yeah.
That'll
Right,
be
yeah.
a condition that I
Yeah,
agree
that's
to
fine.
tonight.
Perfect.
I'll let him know.
Yeah,
And we'll look for whatever your spec is for
So
signage.
you can start it whenever the weather lets you.
yeah. So if you go on the
Good.
website, there's under all the bylaw and
Yep.
regulations, it's a file
Outstanding.
that
All
you
right.
click on and it shows you.
Yep, here's the
Example.
placard.
Yeah.
Familiar with a lot of phenol markers, which are, I don't want to say they're a disservice, but a lot of times they're in areas where they don't want people to mow beyond that point.
Yeah.
And the only way they figure them out is their mowing blade hits these metal placards that are 3 inches off the ground.
Yeah, they're
Or they
dangerous.
trip over them. Yeah.
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 Yeah,
So
that is.
signage is better.
Thank you.
All right.
We have a motion on the floor, correct?
Yes, we do.
Second for vote?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll let the client know
very
about the
much.
signage. I'll send you a revised plan and we'll notify you before kickoff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
We appreciate it too. Yeah, we do. Okay, next up, discussion and possible vote on dependable tree located at 837 Randolph Street.
Okay, and I'm gonna send back this.
All righty.
Hopefully it doesn't go 2.5 hours.
Hopefully.
Good evening.
Good evening.
To get my coat home.
Hello, Mr. Donahoe.
How are you?
Hello, Mr.
Good, how are
Donovan.
you?
So I think you've all received a sketch plan based on our last discussion that restores a vegetative cover to the area that had some fill placed on it. And what we did is we took the original plan that was submitted to you and outlined the 35-foot no touch zone that you had, beginning at the bank, which is really the rock edge of the ditch, and established from the grass area that remained either side of this, added 3 inches of loam, which would be tilled into that, the loose material that's there now, and that would be planted with a grass mix, which I specify. It's the kind of mix that would be really no maintenance. It would be very drought tolerant. It would be easy to take care of and grow in quickly. And that would address your concerns, I believe. So you'd end up with the grass area the crabgrass, whatever was there before, on the street side would be now coincident with the new area, and it will be coincident with the area that's remaining as you go towards that pond. And I'd recommend that be planted, this would be planted something like April 1st. This could be done. The only other recommendation, I talked to my client Wagner, is to actually add some, just a couple of pounds of annual rye. It's just a great, fast-growing.
It's quick to cover.
Covers and
And
just
protects
keeps
the
everything
seed, yeah, I see what you're saying.
which I use all the time, but I didn't put it here. But that's very cheap, but it grows and it dies after the first year once you, and everything else gets established. So it forms a root mat for the other grass, which will be a little
Yep.
slower.
Keeps the birds from eating it too. So this is the area here we're talking about?
Yeah, it's about, it represents about 2,200 square feet.
Okay.
And it goes, as you saw the pictures before, it goes from the existing stone wall that was the edge of the parking area before. And as you also, the gravel material that was placed there doesn't touch the wall in all places. There's places where it's 2 or 3 feet away. This would be just covering whatever was put there. And it already grades away from that intermittent stream, so from a drainage problem, it's a question, it doesn't drain that direction, so everything would stay
So the
very stable.
reprocessed asphalt's going to stay, and you're just going to put the 3 inches of loom on top of it?
Right.
Why? Why are,
Well, the material that's in now is just the gravel material. It's millings, but it's got soil in between it, as we showed in all the test pits. By adding in the loam, it'll give an organic component to it, and then the grass would grow in, it would stabilize everything that's there now.
My other stuff.
So there's no asphalt material in that? Well, there is.
It's a ground up milling, yeah, it is. But it stabilizes that soil, that area that was there before. And as we did, gravel drains back away from the stream, as before it would drain into the stream. So this solves several problems, actually. There's only as we said, at one point, there's 4, 5, 6 inches. Most of it's very thin. So to dig it all out causes more trouble, and there's only gravel underneath it. So either way, you'd have to put a soil amendment, or it's just gonna be crabgrass as it was before, native weeds and crabgrass. This at least gets some soil in there and gets it stabilized, and I think accomplishes what you want.
any thoughts?
I think if it's already there and it's not leaching in that direction, I don't necessarily see the harm of adding the berm on top to stabilize that area. My concern is that there's asphalt in there, but if it's already there, the majority of
was
the parking
added.
lot's already there.
Yeah, but that was added in 2024. And that's what prompted the whole, I mean, we had a buffer, and then that became a parking lot with added,
Okay.
and,
So that was expanded in that direction with
yeah.
that.
So
Okay.
I think that's what Lynn was, I was just trying to see if I had anything on me that with the timeline that,
I know of the property, I just haven't
yeah.
viewed the property with
Yeah.
those eyes.
So at the last meeting, Mrs. McMahon was here, and Mr. Oliveri, and we went through the whole timeline from 2023 forward. And I think at the 2024 meeting in April 30th, Paul Bunker was the chair at the time, and he had said, put it back to what it was, and they were going to remove that remillings, and they were just going to put it back to what it was, and, respect the 35 or whatever it was. I don't have my notes in front of me. I wish I had brought them. So,
I'm just looking at it from the aspect of, they've brought the grade up to pitch it away so that the runoff goes. Now they want to put organic soil on top of the millings. Millings tend to be non-porous. I'm afraid that all the seeding and bloom and topsoil is going to end up washing away on top of it. What's going to retain this?
yeah.
I understand once the seed's established, it's going to have a root base and everything, but what's going to get it to that point?
Right, I don't know.
I've never heard of this being,
And let me clear up just to make sure. It's not just putting topsoil on top of it, it's milling, rototilling this material into 2-3 inches of loam into the top, which is going to make the 6 inches or 5 inches that's there now, basically a mixture of topsoil and what's there now, which is not compacted. It's a ground-up milling. It's used all the time as a road base.
As a road base, yeah.
But you
not as-
compact it to do that. The idea here is this stabilizes the area that he was using for parking before. It will establish the grass seed, which is what you wanted. And by having it sloped away, it keeps the slope of water going from that parking lot into that intermittent stream. So you have basically solved a couple different things that if you hadn't done this, it always sloped into the stream.
Yeah, it
So that-
always did, and that little buffer, and like a buffer, what they act as is they filter out impurities from going into the intermittent stream. That is the purpose of a buffer system. They stop they slow down the stormwater flow, they filter out impurities, so if it's sloped, it's sloped. I was just kind of anticipating this to go back to what it was, which is what we had discussed.
But now
I
we
didn't
have it sloped
expect it
away
to be
from, we have it sloped
tilted.
away from it, and now you're stabilizing it even better with a grass seed mixture that's designed for that rather than crabgrass and native vegetation that dies every year. I mean, it's an improvement overall to what was there before. And you get the grass that you want. And it's in that, when we just had a discussion, the member who recused himself just mentioned about the 35-foot, we're giving you what you wanted in the 35-foot no-touch zone that was already altered 30, 60, 70 years ago.
We went through this the last time, Mr.
Right.
Donahoe, and I don't really want to rehash it again, because I think when Mrs. McMahon was here, she made it very clear that her father did maintain it as a grassy strip area, so
So we're
I
maintaining
don't
it,
want
that's what we're trying to
to,
do.
I'm just kind of expounding on what AJ just said. I'm having a hard time understanding how reprocessed asphalt is going to be beneficial to putting it back to what it was, where we didn't have reprocessed asphalt in there before. I don't know what the rest of the commission feels. They can give their opinion. I know what was said back in 2024. I don't have my notes in front of me. That's my only concern.
My concern was that it was going to be non-porous, but I think that kind of, if you're going to be grinding it up and diluting it essentially so that it is
Right.
porous, so that whatever rainwater or whatnot's going to be able to seep down even further into the ground and pitched away, I think that may not be as detrimental as we think it might.
I don't know, because some of the asphalt wasn't just a mere few inches, some of it went down significant.
We did the test pits for you, we showed all that
Yeah,
last
you
week.
did do the test bits, and I remember that, and some of them were just superficial, couple inches, and then one was really, really, really deep, because I
And I
remember,
pointed out, right against the stone wall, there were 3 test pits that were about 15 inches, and as you went just 3 feet away, it went down to 5 inches, and was bound to, you could barely tell. So we had, I think, 17 or so test pits, but right along the edge, it was, I agree with this, it was where he had made sure it sloped back away from the stream, It didn't go higher than the wall that's there. The wall that's there is still there. So the wall was acting as, everything else in between is still natural.
Is that a natural wall rock buffer, if you will?
No, that was all man-made.
Okay.
Everything's man-made. The whole stream is man-made. It's been there for a long time. That stream is 6 to 8 feet below the parking lot. And the pond that's there drains, unfortunately dries up in the summertime, as they
That's
fill
what
it
an
up.
intermittent stream does. But it also channels stormwater away as well.
And it will continue to do that with no impedance at all.
Anything else?
John, AJ?
I can't help but feel they're trying to stabilize the organic soil by tilling in the millings with it to continue to use it as a parking area on top of the grass. And that's why they're going with the Black Beauty grass. Because at the last meeting, it sounded like he was like, okay, I'll plant grass and have trucks drive on top of it. He didn't seem to understand that it needs to be maintained. And now that we're hearing they want to till the millings and the gravel into it, are they trying to make a solid base that grass will grow on to continue to use the buffer?
Well, one of the things, if we were to accept a plan, I would request in the 35 zone that they put on here, that there would be signage saying that it is a protected area and you cannot be parking on it.
I almost feel like there needs to be boulders or guardrail. I don't know, I understand that it's a working area, and I don't want to restrict the use, but I don't
No,
want it to become a
exactly.
regular use parking area, and it didn't seem like we were getting that point across, that it cannot be a parking area just by planting grass on top of it. And that's what I'm hearing now by rototilling in the millings and planting the grass. They're trying to make a soil that will hold the abuse of trucks still driving and parking on top of it. They want to plant the Black Beauty instead of the standard New England blend that we hear everybody else use. Because the Black Beauty right there takes the abuse and high traffic. Why is that a concern in a buffer that doesn't take traffic? Things just aren't adding up on this in my mind. But if this, if others disagree and thinks this solidifies, I have a feeling this is just going to continue to be a problem over and over in the future. Even once this grass patch is put back, I have a feeling we're going to see issues with this area again in the near future, no matter what is done to remediate. And that's just a gut feeling, because it doesn't seem like we're getting the point across that this area cannot be used. It's a no-touch zone.
I would go back to your previous discussion that you just had with the previous meeting, that this 35-foot no-touch zone was already altered. We discussed it, but it has already been altered, it has been used for years and years and years and decades. So he's not doing anything that would not be an intermittent use by this property. It's flat. There's no trees, there were never shrubs, there was nothing there.
Mr. Donahoe, Mrs. McMahon was here, and I asked her when her father ceased his business, and he ceased it in 2008, if I recall correctly. So it was an abandoned use up until,
But that's a zoning issue, that's not a conservation
and I
issue.
understand, but I'm saying it wasn't maintained as a parking lot from 2008 to 2015.
But it was used as a parking lot. It has been used by many people before.
It became a
Mr.
grassy strip that was protecting, actually.
It was a
and when we-
grassy strip before,
Okay.
when Mr. Makowitz owned it. It always had, because it was, the driveway was, we showed it on the aerial photos going back for 20 years.
We're not talking about the driveway, we're just talking about that strip. and
Correct, but that's
all
why
it's-
grass was always there. What we
Yeah.
tried to do is accommodate a restoration of the grassy area that you had, but
Yeah.
you can't take away his right to use this for his business, just like.
We're not taking it away.
You are. You are taking it away if you can't let him go on it.
Okay. We already did this. We already went through this. I'm
And we came
done.
back with a plan that put the grass back.
We asked you to come up with a couple plans.
We get,
If you're-
but
you get,
if you want to
one
modify this,
plan.
we can modify it.
So, well, we asked for several alternatives, and this is the only one we have. And that was supposed to include mixtures of natives in addition to grasses. On the plan, we see the intermittent stream there's a section in white, and then we see this, the areas that you're proposing. What is in the white area? in
It's
that
exactly what's been there for 50 years.
Okay.
Nothing touched at all.
So when you say nothing, what do you mean by it?
Just whatever's
There's
been there
something
before.
there.
There was never any alterations before. From that point from the wall out, it's exactly the way it's been there forever.
Okay, so nothing has been touched in that area?
Right.
Okay.
And so we're adding topsoil to the mix that's there, so that it's basically about a 50-50 mix of topsoil and the material that was placed there to keep it stable. The grass seed that's going to tolerate and have low maintenance, not watering, and minimize any further destruction or disturbance of this area.
I think I tend to agree with what AJ's summary was.
So I have a suggestion, which is, at the last meeting, we said to come up with several plans. We only have this one. So, and part of it was, we want to give the ability for the owner to be able to park in some areas. He understood he needed to bring some things back. We talked about other things in terms of bringing in native plants, but all we have is just this one plan here.
Well, going to the native plants, the whole idea was to let this grass seed will stabilize what's there now, and he will never touch it again. Whatever's native plants are going to have were there before are going to fill back in.
That's not what he was expressing last time. He was expressing concern about several dead trees within the area that he wants to remove. and
Those will be
other-
cut down at a later time. That has nothing to do with this. Those dead trees have to come down. They're going to fall down. They're all dead in that ditch.
So you're saying just now that natives are going to come back into this. Where would the natives come back into? on
Right
this plan?
where they have been before. I mean, the kinds of weeds that have been there before, there were no shrubs in this area before at all.
So
It's
are
just
you
native-
talking about the white area in
Nope,
between?
nope, the white area is going to be, nothing is touched there, nothing will be touched there.
Okay, so
Leave it
where,
Exactly, so the area that's hatched will establish a grass mix in that zone with some topsoil. And then whatever, there's no maintenance after that. Once this gets going, whatever natural vegetation, grasses that go in there now, that were there before, will continue to come in there from all around, everything, all around this. We'll all start to, there's grass on the other side of the parking lot, the natural weeds that are there, dandelions, whatever they are, cinquefoil, all of that's just gonna fill this whole place back in and be like, exactly like it was, like you saw it a few years ago. There's not any, they're not gonna mow it, they're not gonna do anything with it, just get it stabilized.
so the plan is, we're going to put this down, and then we don't care what comes back up? Like dandelions
Nope,
are they considered to be natives?
everything that's been there before will come back in again, just like every other parking lot.
So
that's
why aren't we
got-
trying to make it better?
Trying to stabilize it with something that's gonna tolerate and get in there and have deep, this kind of material has very deep roots. These are fescues. They have 4 or 5 feet deep roots if you let them get going. So you establish that, it'll stabilize this entire area. But he's not gonna put fertilizer, he's not gonna put pesticides, he's not gonna do anything. It's just gonna become back where it was before. But this is the quickest way to establish it with the annual rye and this grass seed. And then whatever happens, happens. Just north of it and just south of it, that's exactly what's there now. So the crabgrass that's there now will come back into this area. Everything will come back exactly the way it was. But this is part of his business area. That's your point. So we're not, it's not going beyond what was already there. We're trying to meet your objective, which is to stabilize it and get the grass back in there.
On the last meeting, did we have more than just the one plan? Did we suggest something? It seemed like we were really close last time to, finally getting this situated Did we suggest more than just the one plan? Didn't we have several suggestions?
Yes.
Yes.
It seems like we're really close, you know, to almost end this, and it seems like we're almost like kind
Yeah.
of slipping in the mud a little bit here. So,
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I thought after the last meeting, Mrs. McMahon was actually on board, which was, you know, uplifting and hopefully, you know, to get a solution to this. And
Yeah.
it seems like maybe we need more than just the one plan or the other plans that we had and thing. It seemed like we were making really good progress. It seems like we're sticking in the mud a little bit here.
What's the most significant issue with this plan that's before us?
The most significant thing with this plan before us is that, you know, leaving the asphalt millings, I don't see it as a benefit, like AJ had clearly discussed and gave his thoughts on. I am in agreement with what he's saying. I find it very difficult. I know nature does take over eventually, but where it was brought in, why wouldn't it be removed and just put soil in and then mix it in with regular topsoil, instead of leaving asphalt millings behind? I use asphalt millings out in front of my stone wall. Nothing grows through it because it's pretty compacted in the full sun.
And right here in the proposed seed, do not apply this grass seed to horse pastures or livestock grazing areas. Right there in bold letters in the description of the seed product. So,
And why is that an issue with this?
well, why would this be an issue to living creatures, this product?
This is not a farm.
I understand this is not a farm, but this is conservation area, wetland buffers.
And the kinds of material that's in that would be in those same areas in nature. This is a hardy grass seed mixture, that's why we picked it. So that it would stabilize and have deep roots and keep this place from eroding.
If it's so great, why is this the first time we've ever seen this product?
It's used everywhere it's used constantly around the world for fields, for baseball, soccer,
Do you have an
anything.
issue removing that material?
Do I have any
Adding
issue with
fresh milling.
removing it? I have no issue with removing it. I can't see it being beneficial to keep it. So I think that's where I'm getting kind of stuck here.
If we took it out and replaced it with gravel,
If you take it out and replace it with soil, I think would be even better.
there wasn't soil there before.
Doesn't matter. You can always replace it with soil. I
And
don't
that
think,
defeats the purpose of
I don't
him
think
being able to
anybody
use it
here is
for his
happy
business.
with this plan right
Pardon?
now. That's just the kind of the gist I'm getting from the vibe of us here. We did ask for alternative plans so we could pick the one that was best. Like John mentioned, we were hoping this would be done with, and we
So
could
would I.
pick
I
one.
was
Yeah,
more than
I'm
happy.
sure.
This
So
is-
I think I must have missed that particular meeting. This particular plot that you're working on rehabbing, for lack of a better term, what part of that does that pertain to his business? That, my understanding is it's going to be restored and then not touched, but by pulling that out, it's not going to destabilize anything. We're planting grass on top of it to get it stable, and it's not going to affect his business, or are we going to continue to park in that area and utilize that, thus the reason for wanting to have gravel and/or that hard packed?
The reason is to be able to use it intermittently, to move his trucks around, to go in and out of that area. He has a business there, he has people come in for firewood, he has to move his trucks, he's got snow plows that he has. All of that, this area was always available for use for him. It's always been altered. I mean, we go back to this, you can keep saying that this is not part of what was there before, but it was. So we're trying to
Okay.
stabilize it so he can use it, but establish the buffer that you asked for.
So what is the best way that we can have the grass grow in a permanent way, stabilize the ground so that it can be utilized for the vehicles and not have any collapse or further erosion into the intermittent stream? What's the best course of action that's going to accommodate both that and get rid of the mixture that's down there?
He'd have to take all this material out along that edge and put in some compactable, good gravel and topsoil to replace what he just said.
Okay?
That becomes very expensive, and this will work. Why don't you let this happen? If this doesn't work, we will take it out. That's a better way
Or
to
it
go.
can go back to what it was and not have it a level parking lot and have it the way it was graded
Then
originally.
you'll have an unstable area for a period of time that goes into the.
But you said it was always been that way since Mr. Makowitz had a business there, and it was always sloped like that, and it only brought
No,
level.
it had little low spots in there it would drain into the stream. This accomplishes eliminating those areas.
So would it be reasonable for us to have 6 or 8 inches of gravel followed by 6 or 8 inches of loam on top for proper planting of the grass mixture of our choosing to stabilize that area, to have intermittent movement of vehicles on it and still keep it stable?
Intermittent movements.
Yeah.
Would that be a reasonable solution to the problem? We'll get the gravel out, we'll get the mixture out of there, replace it with some gravel to keep it stable, add some loam, cover it with some reasonable grass that's gonna keep that solid, and have the intermittent use and overflow as need be, but not make it a permanent parking lot. Not deter any of the other uses, but at the same time, keep it stable and not have it erode.
So.
Does that sound reasonable to you?
So, what I'll recommend then is that the material that's in that zone that we just talked about, which is in the 35-foot zone that you're concerned about, will be removed, replaced with gravel at the same grade, topsoil, as we talked about here, and do exactly what's on this plan, but we'll remove that mill material, replace it with gravel to the same grade, so that it slopes away from the stream again,
Is that acceptable?
Slopes away from the stream.
like it does now. Instead of going into the stream, it'll slope away.
I'd rather see the topography go back to what it was. If it was sloping in the stream, let it slope in the stream. The grass will stop, the stormwater, it'll slow it down, and it filters out the impurities.
Now you're taking material out of a parking lot that's used by vehicles. I would think the Conservation Commission would be exactly the opposite, try to keep as much of that from going into the stream, that would stay on the site and percolate into the parking lot, which it does very well right now.
I would like to also see that a wildlife mix be used and not a heavy traffic, high beauty grass used for football fields and baseball fields. That's my opinion.
What kind of, are you talking about a natives, something that's gonna grow tall? I mean, that's defeats the purpose. There was nothing like that there before. So we wanted to keep it with grass that was low growing, that was native, natural stuff, that was gonna stabilize it and go from there. I mean, I think your idea is a good one. We'll just replace the gravel. We'll replace gravel with material that's there in that zone, and we'll be done. There's already a stone wall there that protects the stream. It's been there forever.
Wagner Oliveira, 837 Randolph Street. So the white area that you're seeing here, that's just the wooded area. That's where the ash trees are dead. So there is a buffer between the area and the ditch where the water runs off. So there is, like, if you measure in areas, it would be like 22 feet, 20 feet, and then it narrows down at 139. But then 139 is like right on top, so where is the buffer between that? You know what I mean? We do need the area to park the cars. If we measure from the ditch into the parking area to get to 35 feet, it's gonna eat into that parking area about, I'm saying eat, but it's gonna take on space from that parking area about, I'd say 15 feet from the center, from the edge of the ditch into the parking area. So what we were trying to do here was to make that, and I explained it here at the last meeting. You were not here. But the way we did, when Alex and Jane,
When?
sorry, I can't pronounce your last name anyway, so,
Mike?
yeah.
Oh,
So when they went there, there was a misunderstanding on where we could park because we were parking further up.
right, but Mr. Oliveira,
Can I just finish, please?
yes, I'm sorry. I apologize.
So, as people were talking there, I wasn't there. They were like, so where can we park the cars for the employees? Well, maybe further out, out front. So we did, started parking over here. It was grass, it was gravel and stuff. So the cars start to dig up onto the grass. Because it was a mix, it's what he's trying to make it now, a mix of gravel and dirt. So, and it had sloped, you know, it slightly sloped into the intermediate stream, into the drainage area. So because we were using it as we thought we could, we decided to bring this layer of processed asphalt and pitch it way from there because, you know, cars could trip water and stuff like that. So we picked a corner. If you look at my property, I recommend that you guys should, you know, maybe go there and take a look. It would be easier, and you're welcome to stop by. So we kept a corner to the left of the gate where it's like just soil that percolates very easy. So we pitched all the water to that corner. And every time it rains, it can rain as much, I've seen big storms, and all the water just goes there, percolates into the ground. It's clean water going into the water table instead of going into the drainage. We already have 139 with thousands and thousands of cars driving by and dripping oil, and it goes right through the wetland on both sides. You know, I see that way worse than me putting 5, 6, 10 cars there and doing it the right way. So what she's trying to make me do is put it back to the way it was, which I think it's worse. I'm not a scientist. I can't afford this no more. I don't have the finances for it. It's with the, and I said this here before, with the survey and, you know, finding out the boundaries and wetlands and whatnot, and find out that we were not encroaching into the wetlands, we were working on the buffer zone, which it had been since 1950s or whatever. So we use the same footprint that has been used for a long time. And I showed here on Google Map pictures from, I think, 2007, 2008. That was when Mr. Christina's father,
Frank
Meckwood, died. They had tractor trailers and trucks parked on this particular area. And that is the, swear to God, that's the reason why we thought we could keep on using it. Because it's been authored before. And so we put the material there, we did the right way, we thought so. But now for me to go and dig that up and put soil there and stabilize everything again, you guys, please go there when it's raining, you know, on the big storm, just go there and take a look. You see, what we did was a favor to the environment, I promise you. And you still got the buffer from, as you can see, this white area, from the stone wall into the ditch. And that's, I mean, about $40,000 right now, and we keep on coming back here. Every time I come back, it's like $2,500. And we're getting nowhere because I just need space to work. I don't see this being fair. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Just trying to understand your situation.
Every time I hear from you guys, it's giving me like anxiety because it never ends. Because of what?
And we're
Because you're not
we're feeling the same way. It's not that we're not happy, Mr. Oliveira. The point
But no
is,
matter how well we explain to you guys that we didn't do any harm to the environment, you still don't understand. You just want it back the way you saw the day you drove in. But what you saw driving by and what was there before might be two completely different things. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a jerk or anything like that. I apologize.
I thought it was very clear at the last meeting when we went through the timeline that it was understood that we had the approval from the building commissioner to move the employee parking over to here, that this was all talked about almost a year ago. But we weren't getting back what the commission had directed to be done, which was agreed upon. And that's all I'm saying. We don't have Mr. Bunker here anymore. We don't have Alex Leary here anymore to confirm what was discussed. And I'm going by the recorded meetings, and I did that timeline and read it off to you, Mrs. McMahon, and Mr. Oliveri.
Can you invite
And the
Mr.
money?
Bunker and Alex back?
And the money that has spent beyond since the April 2024 meeting. I'm sorry about that, but had it been done the way the commission had said, put it back a year ago on April 30th, 2024, that's all we want. And it's gone on since there, and we don't know
We
why.
thought we could reason with you guys and explain.
But we
the
did, we
benefits.
had the
What was
building,
the purpose
may I
behind-
finish? May
what
I
was the
finish?
purpose? Yes.
May I finish? Thank you. We had the building commissioner at that meeting. The building commissioner looked at the plan and said, by all means, you can move your parking and put it right over here next to the cemetery, next to that building, not a problem. And you said, that's fine, we don't need that much parking. So,
I didn't,
I'm,
because I
again,
never had the experience of not using the other area until then.
okay, but I'm just saying, if that was the case then why wasn't it discussed with our prior commissioner at that point? We were under the assumption from that point forward, and every meeting after that, there was a time lapse of 3 meetings. I don't like going back over this and discussing it either. If it's frustrating for you, it's frustrating for me.
But you keep on going back, so we tried.
Because the commission had said-
Explain it to you.
Okay. I'm
I
not,
mean, look, you see.
I'm
that?
going to back away from this myself,
We're
okay?
trying to explain to
I'm
you
backing
what's
away.
going on in our point of view, and you just want to see yours.
It's not my point of view, Mr. Olivera. It was what the commission had decided in April of 2024.
I understand, but if I have rights, and if he's a scientist, I hire him to tell you guys, if you guys don't agree, maybe hire another scientist to disagree with him or something like that, but whatever he tells you, you just don't agree on it. And so I'm in the middle of this, paying for this, and getting me nowhere. And for what?
So,
what's the solution?
Let's,
we just talked about an
well,
opportunity to.
Mr. Donahoe, let's have the commission speak right now. Thank you.
I'm backing away.
I thought we might have had multiple solutions for this, not just this one here, like with different plants or different things or different alternatives. I really thought we were really close to coming to a solution at the last meeting. We were going to come back today and have several solutions, several plans to get this done. It's just basically, let's get this straightened out, maybe back to original, let's get more planting, let's not just do one thing. It seems like we just maybe just got one plan. I just thought we'd have more of a solution at this meeting to hopefully finally pass this and get this going through. That was just my concern.
Yeah, that was my hope. I know everybody wants this done.
I want to see this done as much as everybody else. I almost wonder, do we put a conditional approval on it? Let them go forth. Let's check in on it in 6 months. And if it works, we can close this and walk away from it. If their plan doesn't work and our concerns become a reality, we revisit it. But I think we, as a board, need to use this one as a learning example, because we have a lot of other bigger files opening up that we need to make sure that don't go down the same route this is going. If this is what their proposed plans are, if it meets the criteria, it's a grass buffer, and it's giving what's there, I'm not thrilled about it, but I say I'm gonna put a motion forward that we let it go through, check forward on it in 6 months, have this done by May 1st seeded, and let's check on it by September 1st and see if it has maintained, took, if it's washed away or being used and completely degraded and disrespected, and if that's the case, then we revisit the conditions of it.
I think that sounds reasonable.
It's reasonable.
The only question that I have is, you're gonna go with this plan with the reprocessing of what's there, adding some additional topsoil, and then planting. Is that your motion?
Wouldn't hurt.
I'm just asking for clarification, that's all I'm asking for.
I think at this point, we go for it, because if it doesn't take, they're tripling their work.
And
they
cost.
need- And cost.
Exactly right. That's exactly right.
And I'm trying to move this forward in a reasonable manner.
Right.
We appreciate
but-
That's both fiscally responsible to the owner and fiscally responsible to the environment.
I think the board and the owner are both to blame on this as far as allowing this to go so far. Whether we need to, in the future, place different types of orders or conditions to make sure things don't go this far out and conditions are followed. You know, I'm just concerned looking at some of the other properties we've had come up in the recent meetings. If they go anywhere near what this has become, we're going to have much bigger issues because there are much bigger property cases going currently. We're talking about a 200-foot strip of grass that's going on over a year here. So I think let them go forward with this plan here as is, and let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, they're responsible for making the remediations to what needs to be done.
So we would check in September. You would get a report from you. We could have a site visit. Okay.
Yeah, this will be in place somewhere between April and May 1st, depending on weather conditions, but it'll be growing, and you can check on it yourself as you drive by, but you'll see how stable it is by the time we get to September. It'll be a fully stabilized
Well, I
area.
think we'd like to schedule an actual walkthrough as opposed to just a drive-by.
Oh, sure. No, I'm just saying, you can, I'm just, you all live in Abington, I'm sure you drive on 139. It's not hard to stop.
All right, so there's a motion on the floor. I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstained.
Abstain. Okay, thank you. All right, unanimous.
Appreciate your discussion,
All right,
thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, discussion and possible vote for amending enforcement order on 1212 Bedford Street. Is anybody here from that property? 1212, yes. Okay.
Hi, folks. My
Hello.
name is Adrian Lasan. I'm an attorney in Mansfield, Massachusetts. Thank you for hearing us tonight. It's been a long one.
I'm sorry, how do you spell your last name, please?
Lasan. L-E-C-E-S-N-E.
Thank you.
So like Cygnus, so the swan, Lasan. But it's been a while.
That's a good way to remember it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's like, the Seine River or the Latin Cygnus. So we're here, I suppose, it says discussion and possible vote for amending enforcement order on 1212 Bedford Street. I've only recently been retained, but had an opportunity to review the enforcement order, and there were some issues with it that I found with both its vagueness as to what the scope of the alleged violation was. And I had concern with the number of signatures, whether it was, if there was a hearing with a quorum, and I don't believe that there was any prior notice of violation.
I'm sorry.
I don't believe there was any
Can you
prior.
speak up a little,
Yes.
please?
I don't believe there was a prior notice of violation. I believe it jumped from whatever was observed to there being an enforcement order. If you look at the guidelines for conservation commissioners around pages 56 and 57, it does talk about how for violations that are smaller in scale, one would issue a notice of violation and invite the party to a hearing to discuss whether or not a violation occurred and to give them an opportunity to cure. This is because if an enforcement order is later issued and the party states, well, I didn't have notice prior to the enforcement order being issued, commissions then don't get to ask for their fees and expenses, and it complicates things when it falls into litigation, because a party then states, well, I didn't know you were saying something was wrong until it occurred. So this enforcement order appears to be dated from June 11th of last year. My client had a landscaping company who was a new tenant on the property, and I guess at an inspection, the commissioner observed wood chips, which they said was within a bordering vegetative wetland for a wetland, though the report doesn't state where the boundary was or the distances that were involved. Going back to the record, and this case does have a record that goes back pretty far, I believe that there was a determination of applicability relating to this site from 1999, where my client had submitted a survey, and it was determined in 1999 that his property didn't contain a wetland. This board on a couple of occasions pushed back against that finding, and I guess in February of 2009, he was trying to put in a retaining wall, and it was ultimately determined again by this board that there was no violation relating to the retaining wall project. It was non-jurisdictional. And in, August of 2013, August 20th, there was an EO that was rescinded, again, because the potential wetland would have been on a neighboring parcel. Now, this property has been in use for a period of years. It most recently was a place where sheds had been sold and stored on the property, and prior to that, there was a trucking company that had stored vehicles. So our preliminary position is, one, denial of violations, that there, in the complaint on its face, there's nothing that shows that this is within a bordering vegetative wetland and that there's no wetland on the property. That we didn't have a notice of violation, an opportunity to cure before a cease and desist was put out, which interrupted a business relationship and caused the tenant to stop paying. And, I mean, he suffered at least $24,000 in losses because the tenant has simply not paid. They ended up moving their business elsewhere. And while the alleged wood chips, which are the subject of tonight's hearing fundamentally, are still there, the business itself is gone, and he has been burdened by the cease and desist without findings of fact. I looked back at the relatively long record relating to this property and saw that on 3 other occasions, EOs were issued and later rescinded prior to findings of fact, and I noticed a concerning trend relating to the board pulling jurisdiction to stop activities and then not coming to findings of fact that would give a right to challenge or appeal. And my client expressed concern that drainage relating to neighboring properties was going into that wetland in the corner. I mean, he referred to it as the corner. And I had other concern that the use of his property was being impaired so as to facilitate drainage into a neighboring wetland for the benefit of other properties within the town, which would be a non-declared regulatory taking. There are a couple of issues, but I haven't really explored them because I only recently became involved with the case. At an initial pass, what we're on here today is whether this current enforcement order is, clear and sufficient and provides notice to the party of even what they've been accused of, and whether I guess the board wants to amend it. But I think that it probably has gone on as a contentious issue, and rather than that, I would propose, if you would withdraw your enforcement order, I can speak with the conservation agent. We can, before any new tenant comes in, put together either a determination of applicability application or an NOI, and do that prospectively before a new tenant comes in without there needing to be a further decision on the merits of this current issue, because I think that were the board to move forward on the current enforcement order, the only recourse we would have would be to challenge the order as insufficient on its face, and then we'd have to get into when the last survey was done, that being 1999, whether other reliance in 2009 and 2013 gave him a reasonable basis to believe that the use that he began in 2024 with his tenant was sufficient, and whether the cease and desist here, which apparently wasn't after a finding of fact by the board or a notice of violation, interrupted the business contract, which would be a separate issue that would, because commissions don't really have a right of appeal to any body other than themselves, would have to go to the Superior Court, and would just, given the amount of money and controversy on the case, doesn't merit it, and I think it could probably be resolved more efficiently for both the board and the party by negotiating it separately. I do a number of these, and as a letter that I sent earlier today accidentally indicates, other towns, I've been with several conservation boards and usually have pretty good results. Rather than this needing to go forward to an order of superseding condition or a challenge to the EO on its face, because it has lingered for a while. But I've gone on and put a number of different sort of pieces on the table, and I wanted to, I guess, hear from the board on what your underlying concerns were to see if there was some way that I could address them.
So the enforcement order, you don't need to follow a process of here's a letter, here's a phone call. Commissions do it how they see fit. Some will do cease and desist, and then if the person is not cooperating, then they get an enforcement orders. Some just do enforcement orders from the start. The enforcement order you mentioned was from June. It's actually from April.
I wrote to the commissioner earlier today requesting the applicable enforcement order. The one that I had received has on its face a date of 6/11/24.
That was probably the amendment. The original one was back in middle of April.
Okay,
So-
well, the date, April or June, doesn't really matter. You spoke with town council.
I did.
Why don't you update us?
Okay, so there's a lot of documentation that I did put together, which I'm happy to share with you so you can understand the situation better. We spoke to town council about it. This has been going on for almost a year now. We have requested specifically a delineation, removal of the fill that had been brought in without a permit, the Jersey burial removal, and a delineation of the wetlands. You can't delineate a wetlands based only on vegetation when you have cut down all the vegetation and added 4 to 5 feet of fill. So that particular delineation would require removal of the fill and/or test pits to determine the presence of hydric soils. So after meeting with town council, we decided that we would give Mr. DeAndre an additional 30 days to get this done and to have him come before us at the March, what is the end of March?
I don't have my calendar.
Let me look. March 25th, okay. So he can come before us on the March 25th meeting with a wetlands delineation that's been performed by a wetland scientist, of removing the fill, removing the Jersey barriers, and coming up with a plan to restore the identified wetlands.
So you did all your research on this. Did you also see in, was it 2017 or 18, DEP said?
2015.
15, DEP said that any activity on that property would require a notice of intent?
So I did see that there was the decision from 2015. It did appear limited in scope. It didn't say all activity on the site. If you'd like to point to a particular provision, I had earlier requested files, but again, that was pretty recent. What I was relying on was the WPA Form 2 from 1999, which I can
Well, I think
circulate.
we ought to go with
And
the
the res-
most recent.
Right.
The piece of parcel that you were talking about from 1999 was the original parcel. Back in, was it 2006? And then I think again in sometime in 2012, he added on to the parcel to where it is today. That's the area in question that has the wetlands where work has been performed. So anything that was done in that 1999 delineation, we're not talking about all of that. That's within the buffer zone. So if he wanted to do something, then he would need to contact us about that. But the area in question are the pieces of the parcels that he bought 2006 and 2012.
Right, from his abutter.
So relating to notice of what you'd like him to do.
Yes.
So if I'm approaching this as an environmental attorney who has received WPA Form 9 enforcement order here, dated 6/11/24, it says on Part B here, this activity has been conducted in an area subject to protection under 13140. And I have the section here where it says that there's allegedly fill. Was there a map attached to this or a description of where or what on the parcel the objection relates to?
I
If so-
think that was in her time, she did a whole time study from day one, and I think you pointed it out in that timeline.
I think you're trying to.
No, my
get
question
us,
was-
to remove the enforcement order on a technicality, and I can tell you right now, that's not going to happen. So I think the best way to proceed is, how are we going to resolve the problem?
So I agree with moving towards resolution. What I was specifically asking was, on the enforcement order, if I were to say, I will comply with what is on this order, how am I to know what you're asking me to do? So if I present this to you, how will I know what you're asking me to do on the face of this current enforcement order?
Okay, well, I think, I understand what you're saying, but your client knows exactly what we're looking for. This has been discussed for over a year, and you can review all the minutes from our meetings for over a year. And we need to find out where the wetland, the wetlands are. And in order to do that, you need to bring in a soil scientist, a wetland scientist, and give us a plan like we've been asking for over a year.
You mentioned a time study as being attached to the enforcement order. Is that part of the order, or is that,
It wasn't attached, it was a timeline of everything that's gone on this property, and
And your client was here for that.
yes, he was. And he heard it, and I believe his former attorney received a
Received
copy
a
of.
copy of it.
So, I mean, your client
You're
has.
trying to get us on a technicality, and it's not going to work. So if that's the only reason you're here tonight, then this was a waste of time.
so environmental law is often
Well,
substantive
you know,
and
if you're going to
procedural.
keep saying the law, then I suggest you go to court, if that's what you want to do. Or you can try to resolve it like we've been trying to do. Those are your options.
So, the
We're not
instruction
going to
is,
sit here and keep listening to you recite law and tell us how wrong we are. You can either work with us or go to court and take your chances.
I would be delighted to work with you.
Then let's do it.
Please state, so that I may know, what in particular you are asking us to do.
State it again.
I've got it at the, all right. So what we want to have the wetlands delineated. Within the delineation, we need to have results taken from test pits in the areas that had been filled. We want to have on the plan to show us how the restoration of the wetlands, including new plantings and the removal of fill, jersey barriers, and asphalt, will be accomplished. We want the restoration to be completed by May 26th, 2025, followed by 2 years of monitoring. Right now, all materials must be immediately moved from the wetlands and their associated 100-foot wetland buffer zone. We would like these plans to be submitted by March 18th, 2025, and we would like Mr. DeAndre to attend the Conservation Commission meeting on March 25th, 2025, to discuss this plan. And I'm happy to send you all the stuff that I put together. I know the file is literally this tall. I have PowerPoint presentations that I made from everything just to try to make it clear to the commission, this is what is in this huge pile, because there's many, many maps. There's a lot of meeting minutes that I waded through. And so I gave a PowerPoint presentation during the commission to get everybody up to speed. So I've given that to his previous attorneys. I wrote it up in a Word document. This is what happened on this date, et cetera, just to try to make sense of everything that's been happening from 1979 on this property.
So
on
if you
up.
give her your email address, she will send all of that tomorrow to you.
Yeah,
For the record, my email address is ALECESNE@gmail.com.
okay. Let me, ALECESM?
N.
N, okay, thanks. E
Yes,
at Gmail,
that's correct.
okay.
So I suggest you review everything she sends you, then discuss with your client on how you're going to move forward.
Terrific. Were there any questions from the commission?
No. I mean, we were just going to discuss this and vote to amend the enforcement order, as I just mentioned just now. And then I would let town council know that we've made the amendment. We're giving Mr. DeAndre this extra time to get this accomplished. And that's what we want to do. We want this done. The Reeds, who have water backed up on their land for 11 and a half years, want it done. So
You said 11 and a half years. I'm confused.
Phil has been in there since 2013 to 2014. It's blocked an intermittent stream that ran behind their property. And that's how we first came aware of the situation.
In 2013, this commission determined that the pool itself was not an isolated wetland, and it suggested that the pool is on neighbor's land. Is that correct?
No,
That
it's
has
not
nothing to do with
correct.
what she's saying.
That's not
the
correct.
same area.
All right.
Yeah, you're talking about a different area. That was the original lot, it was called Lot 1. That was determined to be an isolated land subject to flooding. It went back and forth, and then finally, the Conservation Commission said, no, it's not. All of that, we just care about that it's in the buffer. It's the newer pieces of property that he purchased where there's a large wetland that overlaps onto that part. And this is the area where he put the fill in and put up the Jersey barriers. That's what we care about. The rest of the lot, even when you go and look at the DEP's superseding order, they mention they're not even going to consider that area except that it's in the buffer.
So these are new Jersey barriers. This is not the Jersey barrier that had been discussed in the prior order.
This was the same Jersey barriers, as far as I know, that had been put up. The Jersey barriers had been put up around the same time as the fill
And
had been put in.
among the things that you're asking for in the plan is for the removal of those Jersey barriers.
And the removal of the fill.
So why are the barriers coming out?
I think he's talking about the barriers around the pond again.
Or is this a set of new barriers around fill on the new parcel? Or
There
are
was
you?
fill brought in. There had been a rock wall that had lined the intermittent stream. And those rocks had been pushed into the stream when this fill had been brought in. And he had put Jersey barriers that he had stacked,
Two on top of.
two on top of each other. And then there was another one on the side. So what we need is for that part of the land to go back to its original condition. And that's what we are asking for. In order to determine how much is on there, we need to have a wetland scientist come in and delineate the area. He had it done back in 2014, but they only delineated the vegetation. And again, if you cut down vegetation and add several feet of fill, you can't say there's not a wetland here because you got rid of the wetland. So we need to know if there's hydric soils that can support the wetland.
You said 2014 was the
That
prior
was in
study.
2014. It was Pine Brook Consulting who did that delineation, and that's one of the things in the file.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
Pine Brook, actually. Like I said, the Rainham matter that I accidentally put on the letterhead of a letter that I sent out around 5 for whatever her name was, Downs, Maggie Downs. We use Pine Brook for that one. I will anxiously await the file that you have, and
Okay.
we'll certainly consult it with my client. I think orienting the map is certainly an important endeavor. And again, it sounds like there's a lot going on with the site. I don't know if it is possible to get a wetland scientist within 30 days, but we can explore retaining one. I believe right now, the last time I talked to LEC and Goddard, they were both 8 weeks out, which would mean that even if one contacted a wetland scientist and asked for delineation, it may not be possible to do so within 30 days, but I will reach
Well,
out
if
to them.
that's the case, then have the person that you hire send us a letter and tell us when they can do it.
We also have winter delineations. You can't do them before March 31st, so.
Right.
So
So
the
you
request
have
is for proof of contract.
Yes.
Correct.
Proof of contract is feasible within 30 days.
Okay.
So we could amend the enforcement order to indicate that we need a proof of contract with a wetland scientist who will do a delineation of the property by when?
What's a reasonable date?
So in the letter I sent at 5 o'clock, I had requested 90 days as a general deadline, both to get into the spring season.
I think that's reasonable.
I can work with the commissioner on establishing timelines within that. So it's not to say that everything will arrive on your desk 89 days from now, but rather that the next hearing be 90 days out, because there are probably a few moving parts that need to be resolved prior to the
No,
next
I
hearing.
agree with that.
Right.
You're not going to get somebody today or tomorrow.
So if you, 30 days, you think you can get someone
Under contract.
under a contract?
Okay, so 30 days is the contract, and the product would be pending the appraisal of whatever expert is retained.
Yes, and we would want from them a date that they would do the work,
And
they
it
would do the delineation. And once they do the delineation, they should also come up with a restoration plan. We could do that at the same meeting. But we need to see some progress going on here. We don't want to be in a position where, oh, sure, we'll get someone, and then nothing happens. So if we can amend the enforcement order so that in 30 days, you give us written proof that you have signed a contract with someone, and that they also, in that written statement, that give the approximate date when they are scheduled to begin. And then we could give you the 90 days to get those results to us.
Okay, and then the order as amended applies to, you said the new purchase area, is that correct?
Yes, we're not looking for the original lot, the Lot 1, to be delineated.
And you mentioned that you wanted the area cleared and grubbed before surveying, so that test pits could be made without vegetation present? Would that not?
Well, there's no
There is
vegetation
no
present.
vegetation. He filled it.
So,
No.
Yeah.
So,
so there's no vegetation to be
Wait,
there, because it's all just
it's all
fill with asphalt put on top.
the asphalt, I thought this was about a wood chip deposition. Is there an
There were
asphalt
piles
deposition?
of wood chips, and we had asked those wood chips to be moved, which I think he did. I think he did move them, or some of them away. So those need to get pushed back, preferably so everything is outside the 100-foot buffer, because the Reed's entire property is.
I think that's already been removed.
Yeah. So that, the fill, and then whoever you get to do the wetlands, LEC is pretty good from, we worked with them one time, but whoever you get will need to make certain that they are going to drill down to find where the hydric soils are located as part of their delineation.
You mentioned a moment ago asphalt. Is there, are you saying there's asphalt within the 100-foot buffer, or is that beneath the wood?
I believe the wood chips have been removed, correct? So it's just reprocessed material there, I believe.
Okay. So this is about, I guess, reprocessed material within 100-foot buffer.
Yes.
The buffer extends from the neighbor's wetland, is that correct?
There's a massive wetland that goes from the neighbor's property and overlaps with Mr. DeAndre's property, and it continues onto the Reed's property. Ideally, you would be in a situation where you could work with the abutter because he needs to restore his part of the wetlands as well. But from what I understand, that was a proposal that fell apart.
You rejected it.
What's
So,
that?
She rejected an amendment fails plan that he had engineered, and she sat and tried to put the engineer from Gray, I think it's Gray Engineering. Anyway, she rejected it after she approved it. She told him what she wanted, they put it in the plan, then she rejected it.
Who's
who's
she?
She, her,
No.
me,
who?
you.
Hold on, we can approach Mr. McPhail to get a copy of the plan.
Excuse me, can you come to the microphone and identify yourself, please?
Now, this is DeAndrea, I'm a trustee of the property. Okay?
You have to come to the microphone.
People at home can't hear it, and it's not recorded properly.
No. Okay. That's my attorney said not to bother.
Okay.
Okay.
I think your attorney knows what we're looking for, so
Been here for 25 years. They've approved everything I've been.
if you're gonna speak, Vinnie, you have to come up to the microphone.
Don't say this to them. They're the freaking idiots. Okay? For 25 years,
All
I
right,
come
and
to
if
this
you're gonna
conservation
keep calling
board.
us names like that, we're gonna shut off the discussion now.
I know, yeah, I know. Alex,
I
you
move
signed
that-
all the paperwork, all
listen,
these
Vinnie,
things.
listen.
You know what the appeal period is. You have 20 days after hearing, okay? After you've approved it. So for 25 years, I've been up here, what, 6, 8 times? You people are practicing. You don't know what you're doing. I don't think there's anybody here knows anything about environmental.
Mr. Attorney,
Okay.
I suggest you remove your client,
It's a public hearing.
but it's not a name-calling public hearing.
Alex. Okay? Oh, where's the balls with?
I didn't know that was him.
Sign stuff. Just gonna get paid off.
And I will tell you, Mr. Attorney, that if this happens again at one of our hearings, we will close this and we will put it in the hands of town council. Okay?
On that note, what is the name of the town council?
Amy
Amy
Questle
Questle.
from KP Law.
Because I figure I'd be able to CC her on correspondences
Yes.
out of an abundance of caution and prudence. Amy, what?
Questle,
KW,
let me find
E.
her exact, okay, just a sec. KWESELL. She is with.
Amy,
KP
KWES, or is it double
Yeah,
S?
sorry, KWESELL.
Thank you.
And
KP Law.
she's with KP Law.
What's her email?
Sorry?
Do you have her email by any chance?
Yeah, so it's A. Questle, so his first initial and then her last name, at K-P Law, so PLAW.com.
All right. Well, that's all I've got.
Thank
Anything
you.
further?
Yeah, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the
Right,
board?
so we need to talk about then the amendment that we're going to make. So we have 30 days. They will give us a plan.
they will give us.
Oh, sorry,
A contract.
a contract with a date for when the wetlands delineation will be performed and the plan given to us. No later than 90 days from now.
30 days to have proof of contract, you said?
Proof of contract. So by March 11th, we need to have a copy of a signed contract with a date for when the wetlands will be delineated and when a plan will be provided to the commission.
Correct. But that time frame should not exceed 90 days.
Well, we give them 30
For that.
For that,
the
yeah.
contract.
And then, are we giving additional 90 days for this to be done? Or we give them 60 days, so it's a total of 90?
I think you're going to have to give them the 90 days. Going into the spring, everyone is going to be extremely busy,
Okay.
and I don't want to have them come back. Let's give them enough time to get it done.
90 days from now or 90 days from
90
March?
days from March
Okay.
11th.
April, May, June. So that's about June 11th. So by June 11th, we should have this taken care of.
Right.
All right.
So moved.
Okay.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Okay.
Before the meeting closes, I just wanted to deliver a copy of the letter that had been emailed earlier today, just so it can be included with the minutes, if that's all right.
Sure. Absolutely. I don't have a copy of it, I don't think.
Copy of what?
The email, he said he sent an email.
If you sent it at 5 o'clock, I don't think we would have got it because the town office closes at 4:30.
That is why I tried to...
Yeah, our conservation agent is ill, so he probably hasn't even had time to look at it right now.
Yeah,
Yes,
either,
please.
yep.
Hand it down the line.
Sure,
Yeah,
I'll
that's-
take a look.
thank you.
Great, thanks. Thank
Thank
you. Okay. All right.
Okay,
And
moving on.
Building
Zero
permits?
Summer Street, but I haven't heard anything. Nick's not here, so I don't know what. He said they put up barriers to prevent people from doing stuff within 50 feet.
Right.
I have not received the weekly report from the environmental monitor, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. But I'll find out from Nick when he's feeling
They
better.
did put up barriers?
That's what he said. They had some sort of barriers there that would prevent people from putting things into the, parking or backing up into things, into those.
Something more permanent than the cones that they put?
That's the, that's the barrier, the cones.
Oh, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Still up.
Okay.
So I don't know how
Funny.
successful that's been. He hasn't said anything to me about any violations, but I also haven't heard from the monitor. And she's supposed to.
Well, we can ask him tomorrow.
Yeah, if
Where
he's back
last week,
tomorrow.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, hopefully, and he's not out with bad flu or something.
Let's go
Is that it?
around.
Yeah, that was it. Anybody else have any site visits, correspondence that I don't know?
I did send an email to Nick today because I had emailed him last week with regards to the dealership on Route 18 Corres, Corres. It used to be Damon Pontiac. Across the street, they have additional parking. Because I had noticed that they had cars parked right up on the grassy knoll, right up against the river. And not just on the blacktop, they were right in what little buffer we had. So Nick had gone out there and said he spoke to them and they were gonna move it. And when I went by today after doing a few errands, I was at Trukey's, and I'm like, the cars are still there, so.
On the other side of 18?
Yeah, right next with, where the motorcycle place
Yeah.
is, yeah, they're like backed right up. And I just sent him a note today quickly to say, didn't know he went home sick, I'm sorry. But, they've just seemed to have an overflow up against that river. So, and I know they said that they were gonna move them, and that was a week ago. So I just was saying, might want to take a look, but that was
Might
it.
simply be a worker wasn't aware and,
Yep, probably.
And
Yeah.
then, just something that I had noticed on 70 Diane Circle, I know we had closed it, but on the wetland buffer signs that were in that print, I remember noticing they had the cedar 4x4 posts, but the signs that were on the posts were the size of a credit card.
Oh, no, they have to be 8.5 by 11.
Right, I didn't think anything of it, being that was my first time seeing it.
Okay.
And I heard you mention to somebody else that Abington has a separate bylaw within it.
Yep.
So I know we already voted to approve it, so I don't know if it's already set in stone and approved, but if that's what's on.
Well, they have to put the, no matter what it says on the plans, they have to
Okay,
comply.
just something I noticed on the plans that I thought was a little,
Okay,
Yeah,
little-
so I think when we go out for the pre-construction meeting,
Right.
we can bring that up.
okay, just something I had noticed.
Thank you.
When I had gone through it, because I was like,
Because we've had other people that have had to change them. because
yeah,
they-
it was just something that I thought, I actually had to take out a tape measure and drew it out in front of me, because I'm like, how big is this sign,
Yeah.
really? You know, and I'm like, okay, and,
Standard.
you know, I'm starting to learn what's standard and what's not and everything, so I'm like, okay, that was my first time seeing the signage, and then I heard Lynn's comment about our town requirements of the sign size. So it's just something that I knew I had noticed previously reviewing some of those prints.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
second. Let me just.
all in favor? Aye. All right, unanimous.